1 year of wingfoiling on the west coast of British Columbia. What have I learned? My name is Nolan Mayrhofer. I'm 51 years old. By the time this video comes out, I'll have logged about 100 sessions to date. Foiling is fucking incredible. It's changed my life for the better. The people in the community around it are absolutely amazing. If you want to avoid some critical mistakes I made, expedite your learning curve, and hear some funny stories about the time I got picked up by the Coast Guard, then stick around. Get into it. Gear. I'm not going to go super deep into the weeds here with technical details on foils or stab sizes. There's tons of great videos out there to help you pick the right gear. I had the luxury of a friend setting me up entirely, so all I had to do is just do the action. I think you can waste a lot of time thinking about what gear to get, and as long as you get a big board and a big foil, get it positioned properly, you just need to get out there and do the things. By having a big board, it's gonna be buoyant, and you're gonna get to your knees, and stand up, you're gonna have the wing up, and you're gonna be able to figure out the direction and how to get up on foil. Wings. I'm not talking about the front wing and the rear stab of the foil. I'm talking about the wing that you pump up and you inflate, it gets you up on foil. I've got some stronger opinions on this matter. I started out with soft handles. I started out with 4.5 and a 5.5 meter free wing. They're not great, but they were cheap and they got me out there. If you can afford it, I would say go for a wing with a boom. They're much more expensive overall, but when you start jibing, it's so much easier when you transition over to the other way. Instead of trying to find a handle, the boom's there all the way along. It makes jibing easier. I did it without it, and then as soon as I got a boom, everything kicked off to another level. It was so much easier. You can almost one hand and twist the wing around with that single hand because it's got that leverage throughout the length instead of a soft handle, which you can't turn the wing. You do it, you position it, and then at the last minute, you slide that backhand up. I found it made jibing so much easier. Also, it generates more power when you're pumping because the span of the wing is covered by the boom instead of those soft handles. I hate soft handles. Also, they rub the back of your hands when you're out for long hours and you get big scars in the back of your hands and it gets painful. What size of wing should you get? Well, that depends on your local wind condition, but ultimately somewhere in the 4 to 6 meter range. If you had a 4 meter and a 5 meter, that would do if you're lighter. If you go in lighter winds, you need something bigger. I wanted to go at all conditions. So essentially, I added a 3 meter pretty quickly once I realized that I was way overpowered on my 4.5 meter. And then I added a 7 meter because I wanted to go in light wind days. Light wind days can suck. They can also be super good, but you're gonna get really frustrated when you can't get up on foil and you're trying to balance around and get up and there's no gusts and you fall in, but you build your core up from just being out there trying to balance. They can also be pretty awesome when you're out there in just the right amount of wind and everyone else is not getting on foil and you're cruising because you got a big 7 meter. And once you can jibe a 7 meter, you can jibe anything. You gotta get that monster up and like bat it around and then get your hand over, but it makes everything seem so much easier after that. I also got a 2.5 and a 3 meter. I started with the 3 soft handles, and then once I realized that I love the booms, I went to the 2.5 meter. And I got out a lot. In my first year, I think I've used that 2.5 meter like 15 times in super rowdy conditions. I got my ass kicked, but I learned a ton. I know, super boring, right? I was a swimmer and a diver and a surfer, but the wind is a different animal. The bare minimum is having a helmet and an impact vest. It's impossible to avoid hitting the foil on the board. Eventually it's gonna happen. The foils are super sharp and I think you need to protect yourself as much as possible. Obviously you gotta protect your head and your ribs. You're gonna eventually crash onto the board and get broken or bruised ribs without an impact vest. Soon realized that I wanted to go out in the rowdy conditions and I should probably get a watch with cell service. It proved to be a super good investment as I had to make a call to the Coast Guard one time. Here's what happened. I was out at Cattle Point by myself. The wind was blowing offshore. It was light, 10 to 12 knots. I blew up my 7 meter wing. Thought, this is chill. It's pretty cold out. It was snowing earlier. But I went out, got up on foil right away, did a first jibe, and what happened is you'd never imagine. I dropped off the foil, flipped over my board to see what was going on, and the mast had sheared off right at the base plate. So now I'm out a kilometer out to sea, it's blowing offshore, I don't have a mast or a foil, and I'm on my 7-meter wing. So flipping over a 7-meter wing isn't easy at the best of times. And now I don't have a dagger, a foil, anything to stabilize the board. And when I'm off top of the board, and I try to pick up that wing, the board is just it's an 82-liter board, and it was just floating around, and it's like a floating piece of foam. So I couldn't flip over the wing very easy, and when I did, the wind had also come up, and now I'm overpowered with a 7-meter with no center board, and I'm trying to rail the board in. My arms got so blasted that eventually they just let go. Now I'm 975 meters out to sea, my arms are blasted. I've made it 25 meters and floating back the other direction. Try it again, couldn't flip over the wing for the life of me. I got it over one more time, and I just realized that edging in on the rail of a foam board wasn't gonna work. So I started paddling. Now my heart rate's tacking 170, I'm starting to get nervous. Snow's moving in, there's a storm, rain, it's not good. Looked at my watch, heart rate 175, starting to get nervous, try to drown myself and think about what to do. Paddling wasn't working, I had to ditch the wing and keep paddling because it was holding me back. I couldn't use the wing, that wasn't working, so I decided to call the Coast Guard. What did I learn from this whole experience? Well, there's some big takeaways. First one, if you're going out by yourself, call someone and let them know you're going out. Second one, I carry a whistle with me now. And if you're going out in conditions that are rowdy, you probably should have a cell phone in a bag or a watch with the cell service. You can't rely on that, it's backup, I know, but it was nice to have in my days. Thank you, Coast Guard. The last thing I'm going to talk about is headspace. This has been the greatest sport that I've ever taken on. I've been a swimmer, a diver, I'm a mountain biker, I'm a climber, snowboarding, I've done all the rad things. Surfing's been a big part of my life. Foiling just has more days of awesomeness. It also is the hardest thing that I've ever done. One day, you can have your greatest day and forget all about all the difficulties that have led up to that. You could be out there cursing and swearing and carrying on and getting beat up and thinking that you suck ass and just the day before you were so good at the sport. It's super humbling, super difficult, and there's always somebody who's better than you. Plus, on top of that, it's really physical. So you just need to know that it's not all glory. It's really hard, but super rewarding. So what to expect from this channel? Well, I've realized that I like being a documentarian. I grew up with my mom having a dark room in the house, and she was a photographer. I've got a crazy group of friends who do all kinds of nutty things, and I want to tell the story particularly related to foiling. So I'm gonna get a lot of them going. I'm gonna continue my journey. I've got all kinds of trips planned. I'm gonna go down to the Hood River to continue my surf foiling. We're gonna go to Tarifa, Spain. We're gonna do some climbing and a whole bunch of foiling. I've got a trip to South Africa planned. I've got a trip to North Carolina to go visit my daughter and hopefully get her going on this. And there's gonna be just lots of awesome adventures. I've got a crazy blue nose pit bull that I'm gonna get up and foil, knit that, put her on a big sup board with a life jacket. She goes mountain bike riding, and I put a GoPro Hero 360 on her. I've got some great footage of that. So all kinds of crazy ideas. Stick around, like and subscribe, do all that stuff if you want to see more. Rock on.